Good afternoon. In a couple hours, it'll be almost evening, ladies and gents. And welcome to another episode of A Different View. Today's is another heavy one to talk about. I think it bears mention to note. And when I do these episodes, I'm not. I know a lot of y'all hear a lot of information. A lot of these things I learned as I go along the way. Just like I told y'all on the last episode, a lot of this in my life, I'm just learning about for the first time in my life. Some things I've had some inklings on, some things with biblical study and stuff like that. Some things historically have been kind of paying attention. Kind of like I understand there's a lot of detractors and stuff that are in people's minds and stuff. Most of that kind of stuff you learn along the way because you keep hearing the same excuses. But the idea of a lot of this information is brand new. I think when we talk about Veterans Day, number one, you got to start off with more than the thank you, but the thank you is the first place. And that's where I'm going to get into a lot with my episode here, because again, like with a lot of these here, and maybe veterans will actually like me for this, so be it. Again, like I said, guys, I don't do these episodes to be popular. I do them to be practical. I do them to be helpful. I do them to bring knowledge to things, kind of help to shine a light on stuff. And again, when you do that, you put yourself in harm's way, but it's something I'm willing to do for a greater purpose. We're going to mention Loki here in a minute. Loki's whole little tagline throughout all these MCU movies has been for a glorious purpose, but you realize in going along in life, the idea is to pass along what you've learned. So this isn't for me. This is for others. This is for others. So, which leads perfectly into Veterans Day. Veterans Day, ladies and gents, is a time to remember those who have fallen. I don't really need to go into the history of it. Fallen in the line of duty. More important, more pointedly said, as protecting these lands. And I say it that way because I think any soldier really gets down to the nitty gritty, realizes that a lot of this stuff, a lot of governmental things that have been created is a lot of fluff. It's a lot of garbage. And the real defense is of these lands. I think when you come to certain conclusions that it deals with governments change, people change. Of course, every 2 to 4 years we wind up voting on another group of folks to replace or again change where the last group of people were, but at the end of the day, folks, this thing is more than what we allude to. And I've said it before, but again, you guys have heard me use this term over and over again. Repetition is necessary for learning. I think we have, and probably a lot of it for greedy purposes, have bought into the idea that, I told you once, I told you, twice, maybe three, you ought to get it by then. Again, everybody learns on a different level. And again, a lot of these things tie into Veterans Day, military, because a lot of things, and we're going to get into the kind of the basis for this episode here in a little bit. Again, we're talking thought processes, folks. I'm not really going to go into to a historic basis. You've heard me on previous episodes here, because again, this is dealing with a mindset. This is dealing with seriously a serious mindset that's put aside. This idea, when you look around you in life and in society today, you see a lot of a lack of empathy, and y'all have heard me talk about it on these episodes a lot. Being empathetic, we need to be more understanding of the people around us, because that's the part that was really driven away from humanity a long time ago when all this garbage started. And the veteran is the front is literally, his term has been made. frontline person here that has to be involved in the defense of a bunch of nations trying to fight over stuff and people in some sick attempt at taking it all. And I think because we don't really because again it kind of stinks to look in the mirror. It's really, you get your hands dirty, right? And then you got to go wash your hands and everything like that. And you look at your hands, and when you look at them, you're like, ugh, it's not something that you like looking at. But the washing part is necessary for you to be able to have clean hands so that you can do and deal in other things. Again, things we're talking about from a scientific basis. You ever touch other people's skin, clothes, meat. So if you're cooking, right, we hear this a lot between meats when you wash your hands and stuff, because of the various bacteria that are on different meats. Now, again, you'll have and like I said, folks, there is this underlying thing that's in folks that kicks off like it's almost like, I don't want, well, you know what? It's Veterans Day, so we'll use some terms that the military uses. It almost kicks off like a bomb, and just explodes in the mind to just repudiate against what somebody else says. Just got to go back on what someone else says that could have some possible truth to it. So again, when you're looking down at your hands and they're that dirty and you got to wash them, the washing is necessary, especially when you're touching meat. So this is one of these things that comes out. It's an old school term. Part of it makes sense. Part of it's overplayed. Hey, I wound up doing things, and we danced in sewage, and we did this and we did that, folks. When you're talking about things, when you're talking, so this part really doesn't matter that much, because hey, look at me, I'm this, that, and the other. Understand the underlying things. Disease comes about from results of doing and dealing in things that leave behind serious trails of dirt. Okay? Now, you want to tell me that in today's society, that sanitizing everything is just as overblown as dancing in river sewage every day, then that just the same as the other would have its own separate conversation. But the truth is, guys, when you've got dirt on your hands, the truth, your body, whatever, your hair, anything like that, the idea is to wash it. That is, unless you're using the dirt to grow something. Which in the case, say for like your hair, I just mentioned the hair, the dirtier your hair is, the quicker it grows. Same thing with your nails. Same thing with, since it's, certain things where that earthiness that comes from the dirt is necessary for growth. But when we use it as in the metaphor of dealing with humanity, which is where we get into war, it is the reason why the hippies had an issue with the Vietnam War. It is the reason Muhammad Ali, regardless of his belief, had an issue with war, and they're valid points. See, again, we went back into this talking about daylight savings time and election day, the last election day episode. You got to realize, guys, what we're messing around with here, and what creative power we have, honestly, as people. Because again, this is not the Sunday message. So, like I said, this one I think I'm gonna hunker down anymore. I'm not gonna get too much into religious stuff. But when you are made in the likeness of a deity that can create, guess what you can do? You can create, and because everything is lived on an equal balanced plane, the same way you can create, you can destroy. I imagine, when the song came out back in the day about imagining a world with no heaven and no hell and all that kind of thing. Now, again, everybody is up to believe what they so want to believe, but certain parts that I'd like to pick out of the song, which deals in this corruption between humanity and the ongoing destruction that's happening at the hands of humanity. Again, so now everybody gonna do the happy dance here, talking about the election day episode, which is why I said I was gonna release it a year prior, because I know next year people are going to be distracted. The same distractions that are set up by design for people keep doing this destroying themselves thing. Guys and gals, I'm letting you know what they're giving you to choose from when they say the phrase slim pickings. It's slim pickings. Neither side really cares. When you look back at the definitions of the government in which they have built, they are hypocritical to their own definitions. Democracy deals with government for people. As they elect people, that automatically tells you one thing dealing with democracy or the Democratic Party, which go back in time far enough. Now we're talking about what veterans defend on these lands here and on all across the world, because again, you have veterans now. Armistice Day. When you do a little bit of a study, like I said, we won't go too far in history, but we'll go a little bit. Armistice Day, Remembrance Day, Poppy Day is involved. Different parts of the world here honoring something about November, y'all. Also remember 11/11/11, because that is something that's dealt with in the creation, dealing with when World War I ended, the time in which a certain treaty was done. 11/11/11. I don't, honestly, the idea of whether it was done on purpose or was what, I don't even matter. None of that matters. It's just the significance of why it's done on the 11th. Because again, when you're talking about war, whether it's World War I, II, V, it doesn't matter. The reasons that these wars happen are a problem. So I could care less about an assassination of somebody. When you got to get into the why the person was assassinated. And when you start seeing things like that, you know what it uncovers? Like it uncovers in every other war that you study. It is the greed and misdeeds of people to take from folks. Before World War I, you had that lovely war that was the Civil War. And when we tie in Veterans Day, you've got to talk about the struggle of those of African or Black descent, as the term has been used to describe us dark folks, in conjunction with joining the military to fight for something. And this is a little note that I've got here. Twisting the notion of defense and other holy notions as such to obtain a certain goal. Folks, you've got to watch if life is lived in a balance, and all this has been made twisting it the other way around, like the need for knowledge. So what do they twist around? They twist around education to young minds, who takes them years to figure out after they've pumped them dry. And when I tell y'all, we're talking between college and all of the debt that kids have to live under to be able to make $1, that if you go back in time since the establishment of this government and its economy, that is literally the borrowed stepchild of England, has grown about $30 depending on where you look. I'm talking about the value of the dollar. $30. So from, if we're doing math right, from 1776 to when we hit 2076, right? In 300 years, I dare say that the dollar will go up in value of $40, maybe 50. That's wild to show how fragile of an economy is, folks. Again, this is stuff you can look right on your phone. All you got to do is ask Google, what is the dollar value of $1 from 1776 till right now? It's going to lead you to an article that tells you the dollar's only gone up around $30. When I first did it and looked it up, it blew my mind. Folks are fighting and dying and killing each other over such that debt is the thing that drives the game now, folks, not natural resources. The natural resources drive the debt that then drives the economies of not only the United States, this planet. Again, you just look it up. Just look it up. Look up the national debt of some of these places. They've incurred more debt than they can to actually take care of their people. And the military are the ones that are supposed to defend all this mess. Which is why when you have a movie like, and this is one of 3 examples I'm going to use here on Veterans Day. We're going to try to keep this one short. Again, allow people to enjoy today, because again, it is a day to honor those who have given their lives in the truth of defense, not even for the nation that they serve, in the truth of defense. A Few Good Men. So when you watch the movie A Few Good Men, and see, again, it's real cool to watch these movies that retell the tales of, historical feats, or heroic, which are both historical. Some movies deal with historical, some don't. Some deal with twistings of history. It's real cool to relive the historic, can't get that word out of my mouth, the heroic feats of men and women, primarily men. That's another thing to bring to light. Guys, where you see the stuff out of balance, it's time to stop doing the mental dance where it's okay and making excuses for why it's okay. It's time to promote that it's not. So if the exclusion of women was a thing back then, and you could only bring in so many solely just because you didn't want a woman fighting by your side, you didn't want somebody with it. We're going to try to keep this thing from having the colorful language, folks. But you just didn't want a woman, you didn't want somebody with a curvy figure shooting down somebody next to you. That's all this is, folks. That's all this garbage is. And again, you want a level of honesty. You want to bring healing to these lands. You believe these lands are God-fearing. This is the kind of stuff that you start hearing about when they talk about this Israeli-Palestine thing, which again, it is a family fight. It's a family fight over land, no different than when one of our grandparents dies and somebody fights over the little brooch that's supposed to be left to somebody, or whether it's a dollar amount or what. It's the same thing, folks. Again, other than having set up protections that the battle does not start to really worsen them more than it should, and also spill over to other lands, we got nothing to do with it, folks. We got nothing to do with it. That is, unless nations have, and that's probably a study anybody could do, where the nations have made pacts and stuff that if you protect me, I got your back on something else. Which again, all you got to do is read back, and then this will bring up another note that I have here, which is a colony pact. Now, I mentioned this before, but again, repetition is good for learning. A colony pact is where this is the term they use, unfortunately, and they shouldn't. They should use the word terrorist. They should use the word, what's another one of them? Imperialist. They should use words like that. Maybe euthanist, genocidalist. I don't know. And we make up words so much. Maybe this, so colonizer is the word we use here. Because, another nation comes in and takes over. And of course, they leave you about 5% good things. And then they stole the 95% of the real good things. So the stuff left over is just the setup, make it look like it. So we taught you language, but we stole yours. And in stealing yours, or we stopped you from using yours, made it harder for you to use yours. Again, all you got to do is start looking at things like the slave codes here in these American lands, and you've got a clear idea. And again, 1776, right around that time, was when the army was built, folks. They used military force to enact what they were doing. And again, we're talking about renaming it under the United States Army. Little bit different names at that initial startup. But again, when England came, this is historical stuff. We're not making up anything. But again, it doesn't make sense to keep putting spin stories on it like it's all well and good out here. It's not. We got grandparents, folks, and great grandparents that died to a whole lot of garbage. A whole lot of human trash because people just wanted to keep using even their own people as collateral to take and kill folks in the name of taking, not the name of God. So when they tell you this thing is made off of godly principles, they are uninformed, unfortunately. And there's a way to deal with folks without being disrespectful. See, again, this thing comes back to a level of respecting people. There's a way to help people see things without calling them names and doing all of the garbage, all these different names. You look at all these slurs, we call them racial slurs. And it's not just the ones for black folks. They got ones for Irish and Italian and German and Asian and Jewish. Everybody, folks. Middle Eastern people, it's sick. You know why? Because somebody looking to take something from somebody looked across the aisle. Again, we're going to be using words here that are used in the government, so and with the military. They looked across the aisle and saw some folks just different than them, and they pulled a Mean Girl movie episode where they just started making fun of them. Struggling to survive, not knowing their worth, because that's the only time you start doing that stuff. When you are not confident in who you are as a person. And how could people be when they were constantly, you think about it when you go all the way back in history. See, because again, right, the U.S. military, and we're talking, let's see, all different branches. Maybe you want to spin off the Air Force, and there's probably some, I mean, flying's been going on for a bit, right? So, but we'll just for the fun of being objective, we'll take the Marines and the Air Force. Now, again, they're spin-offs of other ones, so I'm just trying to be objective in this a little bit. Again, it's hard to be objective when you know the whole basis of the thing is built in a lie to hurt folks. So bear with me, y'all. So now, even if you want to tell me that those were spinoffs made under the brand new, quote unquote, brand new United States government, the army was already something that was in place over in England and in Europe. They already had armies, land troops. Navy or naval troops, again, by the time the 1600s came along, how do you think the cannons were already there, folks? How to navigate the seas was already there. Again, that's part of where daylight savings time comes from, because in order to ship stuff across lands, the messing of time helped them do it, made it a little bit easier. And again, this is only just a flip profit, folks. This is only just a flip profit. Where there could have been loss, you might have picked up something somewhere else, but nobody wanted to look at it that way. They went for the quick money grab. Hey, here's a way I can do this. Again, getting back in the colony pack. That's what France is doing over in Africa right now, folks. That's why you got a lot of African countries fighting in their own revolutions, unfortunately. And again, because most places, companies, they get real wacky with this part because, see, it's okay to use the violence to control someone, but it's not okay to use the violence to fight for your freedom. There's a difference there. And it's happened repeatedly in history with multiple cultures. Anytime somebody speaks up for themselves, they're automatically an outcast. They're automatically, which in reality, technically you are, because you're no longer dealing in the status quo. So you're an outcast from the status quo, when in reality, the status quo wasn't supposed to be a thing to begin with. I understand how that might trip some of y'all right now. But it's the truth. Okay. The reality in which you live in is set up for you to give to someone else with you getting little in return. It doesn't matter whether it's the military, it doesn't matter what it is, because again, the whole thing is designed this way. And again, this is not conspiracy. We're talking about studying the pattern of other nations in history, and even on the ongoings on these lands, you will see the same exact thing. That's why they don't want anybody to, again, you don't know where you're going, whether that's going off the cliff or reaching to the highest mountain, if you don't look where you came from. It's why they don't want history being taught. It's why they don't want African American history being taught. Do you know how much people would learn by learning other cultures? All of them. And I don't just mean like going back into your own, although there is some things to learn. So for every person who is Welsh or English, like, you know what I mean? So when we break, that's why I don't refer to white people as white people. That was your masters that referred to you as white people. You're of European descent. So go find out which land did you come from. Start studying where you came from. It'll help you know where you are and where you're going. That's what's so hard about black folks. It's hard to do that because they've had their history messed with. Not the only culture, one of the main ones though. Colony packs, you've got France taking over certain. Now again, we all know France was, again, this is why down south, when you get down south, down over in the, Louisiana, different places that have that Creole in their speech. Where do you think you picked it up from? Just out of the blue? Your master was France then. Again, Louisiana Purchase is right there in the history books, right? Who was owning the land? People don't think of these things in these terms. Now, again, when was that purchase done? Let people look it up. The U.S. Army was already in place. Military governments were already in place. It was the same military that was called upon to move natives and African people from the southeast in the Florida area, and that, southeast, right? Different states around that area, and move them into Oklahoma. You all know the Trail of Tears. Who led that? You had innocent men and women who believe in defense, then having it twisted, thinking that if we got rid of those people off these lands, it would have made it better. It would have made it better, folks. Gotta think some of this stuff through. Like I've always told y'all, if you are able to kill off one group of people, you set the precedent for being able to do it to them all. We are the designers of our own death and destruction. And with the same rifles and with the same bayonets and with the same muskets that was used, starting off in that lovely old time that we keep using to stuff our faces, which is Thanksgiving. And we all have been subject to it. See, again, we're talking about if you're really looking for change, folks. And some people aren't. They use these terms to continue to get what they want. Speaking on election day, did you know when you don't vote for president or vice president, do you know it goes to something called a contingent election? Contingent meaning a group of people are going to do the electing. Who do you think that is? Now, again, it's just a basic study. You've got one group of Congress votes for the president. The other group of Congress, because the House, the Representatives, and the Senate make up the term Congress, what they title, to bring some order to this sick wackiness they've got us living under. So at the end of it, those groups of people, one picks the president, one picks the vice president. Now, when you guys look at all these different candidates, right? We know their histories. Everybody's talked about what happened with Joe Biden, right? Everybody's talked about what happened with Hillary Clinton. Everybody's going on about what's going on with Donald Trump and whoever you want to choose. It don't matter. Chris Christie, Ron DeSantis. It don't. All of them have signed and it does not matter of Latin descent. It does not matter from the nation of India, black. When you get on the ballot, you've already signed over the idea of the Screw Them magazine. Meaning, whatever we're going to tell you, we're giving you, we're either just saying it so you vote for us and then not give it to you, or give you a facsimile. A likeness. You've heard that word likeness before. I'm talking about God to humans. You're not the actual thing, something like it. And in the case when you're talking about what is due people, right? And again, democracy is supposed to be a government for people, right? Let's go back in the notes here. Again, y'all know me and my notes here. So just to let you know, we're not speaking off the cuff. This is stuff that you can find and is studyable. A system of government by the whole or through, because, that word by there, right? That's what it means, because it's happening because of. So a government, a system of government, because of the whole population of people, or all the eligible members of a state. There were certain things they had to create, folks, in order to be. Lord, it's tough to say, man. It's rough. It's rough to say, especially when you've grown up believing that it's an opposite way. And it takes people I will repeat this until the day is long. Martin Luther King Jr. was right at it from this standpoint. All of it don't have to be violent. You see war and stuff like that because people refuse to let go peacefully. Again, like I said, I wasn't going to try to get too biblical with this, but you've got the Pharaoh. Pharaoh's there making deals with Moses, that's the spokesman for the people, right? Let the people go. Yeah, we'll let them go. Then what happens once we leave the conference? And that's funny, speaking of conferences. Did you all know there was a Berlin conference back in the day? Speaking on colony packs. Type it right up on your phone. The Berlin Conference, Nations of Europe. Not the first time, by the way. This is just the first time it's recorded on the human side. This is the first time humans decided to record it. Nations of Europe deciding on how they were going to chop up Africa to take it. What was going to belong to who? And France, which is still left over. Now, the article I read, of course, is in 2015. Again, as you continue to go on to study, you see that there's still some viable stuff that's still going on. Now, again, I say that on purpose because I know that the boo birds are alive and well. See, again, you have to buy into a certain type of thought process in order for something to occur. And in this case, they need you to buy into a certain kind of process, like everything hunky-dory, so that you never fight back for yourself, so that you never stand up for yourself. Again, the thing doesn't go violent for the people that are standing up for themselves. The thing goes violent because those don't want to relinquish power. There's a difference. People are actually very peaceful. The folks who are very violent are the ones who come in to take. And that's the part they don't want anybody knowing about, which is the real reason why they go after TikTok. Now, I said, like I said, I'm going to keep things, I will keep things relevant as we go along here. But this obsession here with TikTok is one because on video, folks, you can put, it has nothing to do with national security. National security, that's what they're worried about, national security. They have had this nation's security in jeopardy since they took these lands over. What national security are you worried about? The security they're worried about is the change and the sharing of resources as a result of their sickness coming out on the world stage, folks. When you look in history how things change, it changes because people start seeing the wild, crazy stuff folks do. And then it's like, let's change it. Because it's needing to be changed. It is wrong to have people marginalized into how much they can have when another group of people have set up the things so that they can have the most. Guys, that's not helping the society run better. That's delaying the inevitable, which is annihilation, folks. And that's not how this planet is set up. It's not set up to cut off people. While you will have, again, I've said it once, I will say it again, while you have extinction, while you have certain things that happen naturally in the planet, we're talking about man-made and crafted ways of extermination. And again, when you bring in things of belief, it's worse. It smells even worse. And that's nothing of what the great creator has designed here. That might be what people have horribly interpreted and got forced down folks' necks and throats, I should say. But this thing got nothing to do with that. So again, democracy, as they tell you that everybody's fighting for, a system. See, the part they're fighting for is the system of government. They're not fighting for the part that it's the system of government for, by, or through the people. They're worried about the government lasting. Do you know why? Because the we the people they were talking about in the Constitution is those who were the rich European landowners. And everybody else who suited their needs. That includes the women, the children, and the help. aka the slaves. There's always got to be. This is why when they talk about capitalism, by definition, it's full of hypocrisy, folks. Because if the owner is the one who benefits from their business, then they would have no workforce. You got a workforce because they're not doing the work themselves. And they twisted the notion of the agreement between workforce and ownership, which is why it's not just capitalism, it's a hybrid. To truly describe what the economy is, folks, it is a hybrid. See, again, if you love this life, you're going to lose it. There's no other way. There's no other way of saying it. You've got people who have sold themselves out for this dollar, and that includes the honest men and women who defend these lands, putting their lives on the line, and in reality, helping this stuff continue. Now, the other serious side of it, because life is balanced, is the part that has yet to be seen, that will be seen, that always happens in history. The other group who rises up. When the other group rises up, that's where you start to see some balance, folks. Does not have to be violent. There is a legal system set in place. Again, talking about this system, there's a system that's set in place that we can use, even with all the laws they have made. That's why, again, folks, I don't care about the person on the ballot. It's what they're talking about. And when you start talking to me about the elimination of TikTok, yeah, as a security measure for this government or for world, yeah, no, folks, no. We all need to see clearly what has been going on. All those content creators, folks, again, if they can do something to one group, they will do it to them all. You got a clear example of what you should be voting on, folks. And again, see, you got to be careful. This is why I'm talking about this slim pickings thing, because you got one group that will say this, then you got another one that will do something just as wild and weird on the other side. There was no reason. So let me go on record here. One, it was necessary for Barack Obama to be president. We're getting into defending this country, right? So these are something, again, like what I spoke on, patriot nationalism, right? What do you identify with? So at the end of the day, yeah, it was needed for a black person to be in office, folks. Hello. It's necessary for an Asian. It's necessary for someone who's deaf. It doesn't just have to be some old European descendant, folks. If this nation is for truly we the people, as they just flip the term there, then at the end of the day, we need to be seeing we the people leading it. That's why it's so powerful. A woman who's a vice president, folks, think about the ramifications there. If she can co-lead, she can lead. And again, we have seen, like when you watch the movie The Woman King, the actual historical context where women picked up in the tribes, in a tribe in Africa, Ethiopian, I believe it was, to be able to defend their land when all the men were being captured during slavery. So if the woman can do that, see, again, now we're starting to turn over into another one of these isms, one of these social constructs that was created to divide improperly. Another word they use for improperly, disproportionately. So when you hear disproportion, improper, just coincide those two there. At the end of the day, you've got the and if you ever have a real deep conversation with your parents and grandparents about it, or if you're fortunate enough to have your great grandparent living, you ever have a conversation about things of real life that just, go back. Again, we're talking about being respectful now. And start restudying what they're talking about. You're going to hear the bias in them when they speak, folks. They don't realize how programmed mentally they were so that their master could take advantage of them. Or as the slang term goes in gang, in specifically this Italian gang kind of thing, this idea of we'll take care of them. Far from taking care of somebody. So through eligible members of the state, typically through elected representatives, folks. Again, this idea of the constant electoral college and nobody ever pushing back on it. The thing is built on slavery, folks, and the idea that the more 3/5 of peoples you had in your state, the more voice you had as a state to elect people. Can folks see how horrible the technology game is going on here? But we're not a racist country anymore. It's just the way in which we go to vote for them is highly racist. But no, we're not a racist country anymore. You know, the idea that you have a national anthem, you got a song that is an English bar song that has a beat from an English bar. See, these are a lot of these things that folks come out, they research, they do their work, and then they make videos of them and put them on TikTok, folks. And I'm not saying that I'm learning these things through TikTok. I'm doing my own study on it. Before I say anything, I'm doing my own study on it. But think, folks, think. How in the world could you have everything so, including the colors of the flag, folks? We talk so much about how individualistic we are. We are owned, folks. When a colony takes you over, they leave behind their stuff as a brand. You know, like when you own cattle and you brand them, meaning is yours. We do that cute stuff with women, and if you got your kids on here, this one might get a little colorful. For those who enjoy the company of black folk, I'm going to use terms that people understand. Women who enjoy, and we're going to say it this way, they will actually tattoo it on their body, folks. We'll leave it that way. Again, if you got kids in the car and they're teenagers and you're okay talking with them about certain things dealing with sex, this might be one of them that you want to speak on. This may be one you want to talk about. They're so happy to be in the presence of black folk that they tattoo said excitement on their body. It's a normal thing. Nothing wrong with it. It is what it is, as the phrase goes. But at the end of the day, and some of these things we'll get into on the Valentine's Day episode, so I do say, folks, stay tuned. But again, we're talking about understanding and coming to grips with certain things here. So republic definition. A state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives. And I've already said this, but I'm saying it again. And which has an elected or nominated president rather than a monarch. And we're saying it, and we're talking about republic because, again, these are two parties. Now, we ain't even mentioned the fact that they didn't even have Republican Democratic back in the day. It was called the Feudalist Party. And that was before they came out with the Democratic Republican Party. Again, all things that you can look right on your phone. You don't even have to open a book now. They made it making it real easy. That is, unless they're starting to mess with what links start opening to what whenever you look up something. Because again, when you speak on education, they're controlling the information, which is an issue. It is an issue. Because you can't say you want somebody really learning something if you're only telling them certain stuff. Because then you should be saying we only want you learning certain stuff. But in order to talk that way, you would automatically give yourself away by saying we just want you learning certain stuff. So, a state in which supreme power is held by the people. Notice everything here between both democracy and republic, folks. What's the key factor in them both? Government for the people, whether it is the power, a state in which supreme power, or when they say a state, an idea, a thought process, a way by which something is, so a way by which the whole power of the thing, speaking of course about government, the whole power of it's held by the people. That the system of government is by or through the whole population, aka the people of whatever place that government is. People are not realizing duped by what they're telling them, exactly how much power they have in their government, what they can demand of their government. And it does not mean, I must reiterate, it does not mean you do it like them morons on January 6th, right after the election. That's not how you do it. That's not how you do it, man. That is so backwards and just lacking imagination and everything. Folks, you're talking about demanding of your government the same way they have done themselves, and you don't stop until you get your results. Nobody said the process was cool. Look at every strike. All you got to do is look just as far as Labor Day to see how it goes, folks. And they've had riots. They've had violence come up because, again, those who don't share don't want to share. They'd rather tell you need to get it by your bootstraps and all this other kind of stuff. Meanwhile, they had land and resources just passed down to them that they've used to then get where they are. But the initial source of their power of resources and wealth was not worked for. It was given to them. Yeah, it's also a very natural thing in the earth, folks. So again, this is why I talk about defense and protection, fighting to protect yourself, how that's been twisted. Another one is how you are gifted things, folks. Twisting it to make you think you didn't work hard enough for it. No, the truth is you are given. Think about it. If you give, it'll be given to you. So now when the thing was given to you, does that mean you didn't do any work for it? Maybe in reality, what you do nicely toward people then lends into you getting something. This is what I said about as far as a selfish idea. You know, people don't ever help because they're selfish. No, in the reality, they just don't realize how much more selfish they need to be. If truly give and then you get back, then the idea would be you'd be given to all these people. Everybody they said you shouldn't be given to, you would have a whole give fest. You want to talk about, what was that back in the day? Woodstock, where everybody was muddy. You know, we was all enjoying, they was all enjoying the things of this earth. Because again, when they say drugs, again, responsibility in the elements that come from the earth. And again, every person they're wrong. You don't believe in smoking herb. You don't believe in doing certain things. We understand. Okay, but we're talking about the naturally occurring things that come from this planet. You may want to take one or two steps back here and just relook a little bit at the information before you say it's wrong. Because at the end of the day, if it's coming out the earth, and again, we're not talking about synthetically made stuff in the lab. If the elements used that are these psychedelic, they have these psychedelic abilities and all that kind of thing. Again, do some study on the science of it first before you, and not just the boo bird part of it, both things, before you say, hey, this is a drug and this is no good and all that. Before we go to that terminology and language and exclusion, let's think through this first. Both things are a farce when you're talking. While they give us power, both things, both democracy and republic, are a farce. That means those people of both parties deal in a lot of, again, this word tricknology, because a lot of it is very false. The only reason we want to cancel certain things and do certain stuff is because they don't want certain information getting out. It has nothing to do with, and now that information then getting out would have to do with something of national security, but not because they gave, somebody's bank account to something. It would be because somebody's bank account got out that wasn't supposed to have that money, that was supposed to go to someone else. That's what would cause the national security issue. Which again, you know how you clean that up? Start being good toward people. Start giving folks the money and resources they're due, that they have or their families have worked hard for, that they are owed through the problems in life that they have gone through, that were caused not of their own doing. Just stuff to ponder, folks. So that movie Code Red, right? So the idea of standing up for right is highly necessary, folks. You're at a time here where people are just passing along this thing like it's okay. It's not okay to be mean to folks. It's not okay to just treat them any old kind of way. It's not okay because it's something that's been doing. And for those who haven't seen A Few Good Men and the movie Crimson Tide and also Loki, This past season, even both seasons, really. Actually, not really a spoiler, but for those who have not watched Loki, to get the full view of it, you got to watch the first season. The same with the second. Got to pay attention to Loki as a character. Loki as a mythological god. A lot of that in order to understand what's going on here in Marvel Comics. Matter of fact, I think Stan Lee did, and the creators with Stan Lee did, because there was no way they'd be able to do what they're doing today with the character and back then without it. No way. No way. And this is what I'm talking about. Come out for some things. Learn. Everybody's watching videos all day long. Take 1 to 2 minutes just to learn something. Outside of the 4 coasts. It will shock you what you find. It will shock you what you find about this earth you live on. It really will. So just because you got some ways of discipline, and again, this gets into some things here with parents and stuff, okay? We got ways of disciplining. It's how you use them. I understand this starts to attack ego and pride, but we got no more time now, folks, to keep messing around doing the same silly stuff our greats and our parents did. If it ain't working if it worked for Sally, it won't work for John. Okay? You've got to study each child as is, and then you got to get help when you need help with it. You might need outside help. It's okay. See, this idea where you got to be you're not the creator, folks. You're not. Take that burden off yourself. You don't have every tool you need. If you did, you would be totally alone. That's why it's not good for people to be alone, because you don't have every tool you need for everything you're doing in life. You need other people. You need other people. That phrase right there has also been twisted to hurt folks. Like the idea that black people need massa or white people in order to be successful. You don't. It goes for every culture too, by the way. I'm speaking to one specifically that has been most harmful to. We have our own culture. We have our own way of governing. We have our own way of making money. All you need to do is go back into your history and look. Keep looking. Put the pieces together. All of it is not hidden. You just got to go looking. Again, seek and you'll find. Knock and the door will be open to you. You got to go look. Everything is not just going to come out to you. A lot will. Not everything. And you need the combination of both in order to do this thing. That Code Red stuff in that movie A Few Good Men, no good, folks. We're not sitting here whooping people and just because and Lord knows if he's going to do that, guess what? It's not just good for now those in the military, y'all excuse me because I don't know, I do not know all the ranks. So my apologies. But if the private can catch the butt whooping, guess who else can get the same butt whooping? The highest corporal, whatever, the highest boss. See, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, folks. And that's another thing that's been twisted here, to be able to support somebody else taken from you. I'm sorry. So again, let's cut out a lot of this. You can hold people accountable without doing these silly, barbaric things. I'm just going to call it what it is. Especially to the death of people. Yeah, no. You need to stand up. Anybody want to sit there? And Jack Nicholson played a great Jack Nicholson, not Jack Nicholas. Jack Nicholson played an awesome role in this head character here with these group of kids, really. Because again, they got you thinking you men when you're 21 years old and you have graduated to a certain part of life. Absolutely, and you should celebrate it. But in the lack of teaching the proper stages of life here, you haven't seen what a 40 some year old's going to go through, and the 40-year-old don't know what the 60 and the 80-year-old going through. This is where what I like to call imbalanced pride, lack of pride is going on. It's got to stop. If you want to create a stronger society, you got to stop doing that. We gotta be grateful for where we are and grateful for where we're going. I really don't even know how else to say it. Crimson Tide. So now you got that Cold War going on. And thank God for Denzel Washington, man. Listen, so you're telling folks, and this is the workforce is based off this, and I'm talking private sector and public sector. The workforce is based off this garbage, doing stuff and twisting rules so someone else can make profit, and then telling other people to follow and adhere to those rules, or if you don't, there's a penalty. And you want to tell me that there's no such thing as intimidation? You read these contracts of all these different things workers are signed, and you want to really tell me there's no such things as retaliation and intimidation? Absolutely there are. That was the need for Labor Day, folks. It's protections for the workers. And only in workers banding together, much like citizens with their government, do you actually have a basis. You're not doing it one or two people, folks. The military's not made on one or two people, is it? So why would you think that one or two people is enough to defend the holiness of right and doing right toward people? It wouldn't be. You'd need a lot of people. And there are a lot of people. They're just scared. Again, this is why I'm saying make it accessible, make it well known as to who you are. There's no need to hide, folks. What's done in secret comes out in open anyway. There's no, you don't need that hiding stuff. Wisdom, doing things in caution. That's one thing. But that hiding and sneaking stuff, Show yourself clearly to be opposite of that which is so wrong. I think Crimson Tide kind of speaks for itself, so we're gonna skip here. We're right approaching an hour, so we're gonna shut it down here. You've got Loki. See, time control. Time control. We talked about this with daylight savings time. That it's basically a big old money grab, and it is. Again, you want to give me the benefits of extending the hours and stuff like that. Again, the great creator above's already done it. When the Earth in its rotations closer to the sun on the one side, days automatically get longer. Right? Like it's already like again, you already got the sunlight there, right? So now 7 o'clock when it was darker, it's not dark at 7 anymore because the sun's right there. So now it's longer, folks. We're just talking about what's going on here. You don't have to increase time. You don't have to increase time. Doing that, it might have got you through a little bit, right? Because again, we're talking about starting up. You're talking about the beginning of shipping things, or maybe in this modern terms, back in 1600, all this kind of thing when these things started coming out. Because again, by the time in the establishment of implementing daylight saving time, people have been playing with it before then. Like I said, anything you see comes out officially somewhere in history. People have been playing with it before that. So again, you got your rotation going on. It's already set. Creator already set it. When the sun's away from the stuff, it's colder. When it's closer, it's hotter. That's it. You don't even need to. And when you have extra sunlight, guess what happens? Everybody outside, there's less people doing well. See, this is why I'm saying when you're talking about the defensive folks, that's where it becomes necessary. It's where the police department comes in, and the part they skip over, you rather defund than rebuild. I think that's the part we need to get into. We need to realize that the history of the police department deals with things of slave catching and all other types of things. We need to rebuild the thought process. We're here to protect and defend. That's it. Get all the rest of that other patrol mess out your mind. You got somebody in the neighborhood, they're slinging drugs, they're doing harm. That's what we're supposed to go after. Not some kid going down the street, just being inquisitive, man. You got to let that go. And you got to keep your other brothers in your precincts all across this globe, because it ain't just U.S. police. It's everywhere. Again, U.S. police comes to light because we're in the U.S., but this mess is going on everywhere. The point is not to be hemming up little kids and 12-year-olds and 20-year-olds. These folks just living their life. They're living their life. You're talking about they're breaking rules. That's one thing. And again, the boo birds come out. No, you don't understand. This is what they go through with this. You don't know how hard it is here and there. Again, when do we start making excuses for doing right toward folk instead of making excuses for why it's okay that it just stays the way it is? And then silencing people when they talk about stuff like this. The point is to encourage the speech. And then by doing that, you help find the ways. So this time control thing. Understand, folks, it takes sacrifice here to set some of this stuff right. And I think that this is where we're starting to get to, maybe just at the threshold, if you will. We're just starting to get to the threshold of sacrificing our lives to do right by people, to take the burdens, to take the hits that you get when you stand up for right, so that somebody else can be all right. Sometimes it ain't always going to be all for you. See, this is for others. This is to your, as it's said in certain places, to your children's children. This is not just for you. See, but again, a greedy mindset gets you thinking that it's what I can get out of it. Yeah, what could I pass along to somebody? I'll take a little bit of something, but what can I pass the ball? Get a team mindset instead of individualistic, and it will push us to places that humanity has not seen yet. Dare I say, Renaissance level. New science is coming out. Different forms of art coming out. Let's not censor TikTok. If you want to do better, you improve it. And I'm not talking about by making people less expressive. I mean in helping them in other ways do the same exact things they've been doing. And that goes for any one of these social media things. People need to stop down in social media. Social media is necessary. Because when you go back in time, as far as media is concerned, that thing was slow moving. Nowadays, you can get that thing in about 15 seconds, maybe less. The point is in talking about responsibility of the usage. And that's not through taking away. It's the same thing with alcohol. It's the same thing with all this stuff. It is in the proper usage where humans have failed, not because the substance itself is wrong. And when we get to that place, life's just going to be better, man. You talk about great. You got to walk down the street. You ain't got to worry about it. It's about both gun control and rights. See, this is why I'm saying neither one of them is telling you the truth. They're both pitching you half a lie. Let them figure out who they want to put as your representatives. And then because you have the power to do so, then you go back and be like, nope, you ain't doing right. As a matter of fact, you probably hem yourself up by voting because now they can go back in and say, yeah, this is the person you voted for, so this is what you get. Now you let them know, no, I ain't vote for this guy. I don't know what the heck he talking about. And he or she shouldn't be there. And this is what needs to be happening. People need access to health care of all sorts. Guys, that don't care how you feel about certain things. People need access to all types of health care. Old and young. Male and female. And all in between. Again, learn from history. This idea of control leads to some real bad stuff. The idea is not in control, it's in responsibility. You want to deal with sex as far as abortion goes, you speak on responsibility. You want to talk about guns and all that kind of thing? Again, it is controlled rights. Of course, every person. And funny that they came out with the right to bear arms. Meanwhile, they wouldn't let the slaves have the arms because they knew they would revolt against their oppressor. Same thing you see today. Shocking, isn't it? It's time folks stop looking to that superficial that has been put in front of them and go a bit deeper. Look again. Look again. So, that's what I got for today. Again, huge shout out to our men and women. And they need to do better by them, by the way. I'll be the first one online to talk about it. You got folks, cousins. I got them. Everybody got them. Somebody done served in the military, whether it was for money or whether it was for defense of country, whatever it's for, it's there. It's there. It's a tool to use. So that's a whole other subject there. Whether you want to judge somebody because they went in for money, you need money. Lord knows they done messed around with the economy and opportunity so much. People got to pinch and penny pinch everywhere to make a dollar. That's why I don't make fun of strippers and stuff. You make money however you got to. Okay? As long as it doesn't land you in jail or from the laws that they have made, you make money however you got to make it. But at the end of the day, you got to have more empathy here, folks. Soldiers go through some horror. You don't even know what it's like to blow a person apart, watch the body parts fly all over the place. I'm sorry if this gets graphic, folks, but again, you want to talk about understanding people. You understand them. Now, think about this, the slaves there who are also watching their own be ripped apart. I'm talking about in the beginning with the Revolutionary War. Again, I'm calling it the American one, as it's the European Revolutionary War. Europe is fighting Europe as a cover-up to take these lands. I'm talking about how free they wanted to be from England. They should have stayed over there and continued the fighting that they were doing in the 12th century over in the, 18th century. Same thing. 6 centuries later, they should have been doing the same fighting over there. Don't bring that mess over here while the natives of these lands were just having a good old time. They had their own stuff they had to deal with. Because all people got their own stuff to deal with. Which brings to light another thing. You got problems and stuff like that. You save that stuff to yourself. Don't spread that mess over to your children. Don't spread that mess over to your friends. Let's get help. This is why when you talk about what's some of the words here, George Carlin did a really, really, really good skit on this for veterans as I end this episode here, talking about words and phrases. Because again, this is how they hide their thing in words and phrases. The laws and legalities you all see, folks, are made of words and phrases. Thoughts are formulated from words and phrases. There's a lot of power behind that stuff. People really should pay more attention to it. But regardless, what's the word? Shell shock. Then turned into, again, the one big one that we use today is that post-traumatic stress disorder, I believe, or syndrome, excuse me. You had one that had to deal with operation. They kicked that one back. I want to say maybe it was like the 50s, 60s, somewhere in there. They started messing with words and phrases so much, guys, that you don't get the real idea of what people are really going through unless you go back in time and study. And this is why I say it as graphically as I do. Folks don't know what it's like to blow someone to bits. Well, I mean, the more we keep watching what's going on with the uncontrol of guns, we're going to wind up seeing it. All them people at that party, that country fair a couple of years ago where that dude opened up fire and killed all them people. Yeah, folks know exactly what that looks like. When you get shot with a sniper rifle, they know what it's like. It's the trauma that comes with it. See, I'm talking about the responsibility, folks, with the abilities we have. And until we start let go of greed and start grasping a hold of sharing and protecting people, you'll see a lot of this mess go by the side. I didn't say it wouldn't take some work, but you'll see it go to the wayside. Just like it always does in history. Choose to make today your starting point in history. Well, we could look back, and they might even name you by name. That's not even the point. But that you had something to do with a revolutionary part of life. Less superficial and more revolutionary. That was the goal of the veterans, and it's still the goal of any young person who's a veteran who really gets a hold of this and you have a good conversation with them. This is the kind of stuff that they'll talk to you about. So that's what I got for today, folks. Thanks for joining me on this Veterans Day episode. Again, look forward to Thanksgiving because while everybody's enjoying the turkey and pumpkin pies and apple pies and gravies and greens and beans, tomatoes, and all that mess from that song that they keep messing around with Shirley Caesar, Sister Shirley Caesar, I should say, for those who are Christian. And we will get into that Christian part of it too here, because again, separation of church and state is not a truth. So stay tuned for it. And until next time, ladies and gents, look to find the beauty in a different view.